Hello, my name is Ethereal and today I'm going to show you my standard deck for Eugene. It's a deck with some unique decks in it, at least in my opinion, because you're not using full Eugene cards, you're using some cards from the new trial deck, the Buff Sargra trial deck. So let's get started and I'm going to start with my right deck first. This might be a bit interesting, but it has a lot of reasons on why you do it and why you use this. So this is my right deck. I have the Grade Zero from the Buff Sargra right line. I have the Grade One from the Buff Sargra right line. In the I have the Grade Two, which is Randoruk and Eugene himself. Eugene, pretty much what you expect as a somewhat of a, in my opinion, a mediocre card in relative to others. I mean, back when Vanguard first started, plus 10k on a something is very good, especially on a Vanguard. So yeah, but now with everything, it's not that good. The second skill, which is the um, call one, it's just not good overall, and you're most likely gonna lose some value out of it. But what makes this deck kind of unique is the grade 0 and grade 1. Basically, you're using the grade 0 and the grade 1, the buffs are right line. The grade 0, you need to have um, if you want to use the grade 1 to get one of the shield or one of the arms order cards. And I'm going to explain it later on why I use this deck. And yeah, Randuru, it's very much explain. It's not hard to explain it, but I don't know the words. Basically, you just it's a 15k attack and a soul charge 1 for a counter blast, which is decent enough. And the when it's written Eugene, that's just a draw one and plus one into your soul, so that's very nice. Because you somewhat need soul sometimes with this deck. You kind of run out of soul, some sort. And because you're not running the great one Nigel, which gives you another soul, which in my opinion most of the time overkill, but sometimes the one soul that you get from Nigel is impactful. And with this you don't, like I say, you don't soul charge, but you actually soul last this specific card. So that's why you need to use this grade 0 to get the one of the arms order card, the shield or the sword. And yeah, this is my right line. Pretty much, what I explained, it's simple. It's Eugene. And yeah, I'm going to start with grade 3s now. Grade 3s, you might see it a little bit. And you have in my deck, I mean, I have 3 Eugenes, one, three in the main deck and one in the right deck. So I'm running a total of 4 Eugenes. I'm running 3 best Harvards, the new order card, relatively new order card from DBT03, and I have 3 Tribash from DBT01. I have 2 Maynards and one of the shield. There's a reason on why I run like some considered to be a substantial amount of grade 3s. Eugene, pretty much explanatory. It's a persona ride. Very much this deck needs persona ride to hit some of its really decent numbers compared to the other decks, and to actually have a fighting chance against it. So yeah, with best towers, This is the best order card that Eugene got, hands down. It's actually one of the best order cards in my opinion. It's really useful in premium too, which is surprising because not a lot of order cards are used in premium. This is an exception because any board wipe effects that is in the battle, that is not sorry, not in the battle phase but in the main phase, you're gonna draw a lot of cards, so it's gonna make you a zero if you retire at least one and plus one for each of the other card that is retired. So it's a very good card, especially like with something like Mukuro or Sunburst. You just draw one. The effect is choose one of your vanguards. It gains the skill auto on vanguard circle when a uh, when a when your one of your opponents gets retired during your main phase, you draw one card until the end of turn. It's a very good skill. Basically, it's like I say, one of the best, if not the best, order card that Eugene got, and most likely Dragon Empire got. So yeah. The other grade three that I'm running as a three of is Tribash. Pretty much self-explanatory. The skill is when your Vanguard attacks, if your opponent has two or less Rigor, put this unit to Soul and your Vanguard gain plus one critical until the end of battle. And it's just like you say, pretty much self-explanatory. Your opponent's gonna be retired. A lot of, they're not gonna have much rear guards at all, and it's really easy to make them have two or less rear guard, especially with the other cards that I'm going to show you. And giving your Vanguard plus one critical, that means that they need to start guarding when they're at 3 damage instead of when they are at 4 damage. It's very impactful, especially in Eugene, because you don't really have much ways of multi-attacking. That's one of the, like, the only downside of Eugene, in my opinion. If they got a multi-attack engine or somehow to a way to multi-attack, I would say this deck would be a lot better. And I would actually bring this to competition. I mean, I still bring this to a lot of like locals, stuff like that, but I'm not gonna bring this to a BCS unless I'm having like a really why not? I'm just curious of how much I'm gonna be destroyed or how much of a masochist I am at that specific time. So yeah, Strybash, it's a plus one critical plus soul too, which is very nice, and it's a grade 3 13k base. It's very good for if you're going first. Oh, it's even good if you're going second. And I run two main arcs. The skill is when this unit is placed on Vanguard or Regal Circle, counterblast 2, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards. Then they retire that whole column, all of their rear guards in that column, which is very nice because it basically nullifies it mostly play around uh, Eugene's weaknesses, which is calling a random trickstar to the back row or calling a Fossard, which is problematic. And by you having this, and if they know, they either have to be very cautious of where they put their Fossard in. And try to not call anything to the back row, because if they call anything to the back row and they somehow can kill you, which is sometimes happens, therefore it's gonna die. And um and especially in I'm playing in the Japanese meta, so not a lot of people play Fossat anymore. They just run two, maybe one, sometimes three, but never four anymore. I've never seen people run four Fossats. um well, when the triple rare from DBT03, where you get to drive check twice because of its skill. Yeah, that card. Um, in Japan, people use it a lot, so that's why I run two of this, because I know that if they don't have any more Fossat, I'm gonna be safe. That's why I also run two. because it's not gonna bother a lot of your ratios, because like I say, you're already running like 10 different grade threes, including the arms order card that I'm going to explain later. And it's a total of 12 grade threes, which is a lot of grade threes. And finally, the shield. A lot of people that I talk to, they're confused on why I use it, and why I use this specific tech. It's because that it's a plus one. That's it. It's a plus one. When you ride it, you get the shield. Yeah, sometimes you get the shield in your hand before you get use. You can use the skill, but it doesn't happen most of the time, which is why I use this deck, because I know that Eugene needs hand. That is why you run this kind of deck, and you don't run. I don't run any She-Hub in this deck, which is completely my taste. I don't like She-Hub. I don't like how the card functions at all. So yeah, this card is just fodder, basically. This card fodder. So yeah, and it also sometimes tricks, not just yeah, tricks my opponent to playing. Oh, I'm playing the buff Sargra deck, but I in reality I actually play Eugene, and it sometimes fool people, but as time goes on, it doesn't really fool people. But it's still a very nice card, making the deck not from a plus one to a plus two from the whole right deck, which is nice, because a lot of decks can give plus twos. UG like Dragon Empire doesn't really have a lot of plus twos, unless you count um, Nirvana, which is completely fine because it's also a plus two. But in my opinion, this is much more versatile because you can actually get cards into your hand, while Nirvana is calling something and then getting something. But they don't have a cost, and this requires a soul blast. And most of the times, like this is Eugene, you're not gonna run out of soul, at least up to zero. Yeah, and I'm going to go to the grade twos. I'm only running 8 grade 2s, which is what most decks calls for. I'm running 4 Gibrabrachios and 4 Dustin. Dustin is the only other triple rare for support for Eugene. So it's instant 4 off, and the skill is, this is a grade 2 by the way, like I said. The skill is auto when placed on Rega Servo. If your Vanguard's Eugene, you put a card from your hand into your soul, you draw one card, and then you retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rare cards. Key part of this sentence, grade 2 or greater. I've seen a lot of people retire grade 1 or less, and sometimes that I have to say that, oh, it doesn't work at that because it says clearly grade 2 or greater. So yeah, and the second skill is auto on data circle. When this unit attacks, the cost is all blast 1. When this unit, for each of your opponent's open Riga circle, this unit gains 2000 power. It doesn't sound like much, but hear me out. You're gonna retire a lot of decks in a lot of rear guards of with this deck, and most likely you're gonna leave them at either 1 or 0 rear guards. So that means this is gonna be an 18 or 20k. The difference between the difference for a 13k, not much, because most of the shields are 5k, but having an 18k makes things a lot harder for your opponent. They need to do a lot more decision making, because do they want to overguard or do they want to spend 2 cards from their hand most of the time. So yeah, having an 18k rear guard attack forces your opponent to, like I say, call 10k, and it sometimes fuck with their counting. And you can also say to your opponent that, oh, it's either gonna be an 10k or an 18k. If you persona right, it's gonna be either a 20k, or get a trigger, it's gonna be a 20k or a 28k. And a lot of the times you can play mind games with them, but most of the time you use the soul blast cost. But sometimes when you need to spare soul, you don't soul blast, And at that when you put and you're gonna so your opponent sometimes gonna get surprised like, oh, he's not soul blasting. So sometimes like still they gotta overguard if you persona right or give a trigger to Dustin and they haven't gotten any defensives yet. Yeah, it's just a really nice card for Eugene. I wish it was slightly stronger, but it's Eugene. It's not gonna be meta, in my opinion. And for Jibra Brakyo, this card, in my opinion, is slightly better than Dustin. The reason why is the skill. The first skill is an act on Riga Circle. If your Fang guards Eugene, you Soul Blast one and then rest this unit. To retire one of your opponent's 3 guards. Doesn't say great, doesn't say anything, just pop something, which is very powerful in this deck because y- like I say, this requires a grade. I mean, main art requires another rear guard behind another rear guard in the same column, and you're going to see later Idris pops a great or greater rear guard. Yeah, it's an act too, so you can use it however much you want. It's just a really nice effect for the first one, but the second one makes the card even better. It's auto on Miracle Circle. At the beginning of your battle phase, if your opponent has one or less rear guard, stand this in it, and this unit gains 5000 power. This just helps the deck so much because remember the cost for the act is resting itself, and one of Eugene's cost is resting two rearguards. So having a Gibrabrakio on the field really helps because you're most likely, like I say, you're gonna leave them with one or zero rearguards, which you're gonna restand Gibrabrakio. Yeah, it eats soul, but like I say, most of the time soul doesn't really matter because a lot of the cards gives you soul, especially if you're like having like three Tribash is most likely gonna be enough. Just play Idris and the crit the crit 4Ks, the crit souls from DBT03, which is just a staple in all decks. So yeah, this is the grade 2. I'm only running 8 grade 2, like I say. It's a quite depressing amount of grade 2s, but what do you want? It's not Bastion levels of crazy. So I'm going to go with the grade 1s. I'm running a lot of grade 1s. I'm having 40 Gs, 3 Orlan, 2 Idris, and 1 Fushima Madoka. PG. It's a PG. It just helps you survive, help you win games, help you clutch up sometimes, and it's just a really nice card. 3 Orlands. In my opinion, this is also like a really nice card from DBT03 because the first skill is act on soul. If your opponent's regard will see type this turn, counter plus one, call this card from your soul to an open. No, not even to an open Riga circle. Just call this card to Riga circle. It's basic. It's nice. It's nice to have this because if you don't want to call something, but with this deck you're gonna have access counterblast because you're not gonna use Maynard all of the time. You're not gonna use Idris effect all of the time. Um, and I'm running like only two Idris, two Maynard, so you're not gonna use counterblast a lot unless you're facing something like prison, which is completely understandable. And this is like yeah, just a really nice card. And the second skill is auto on Vega Circle. When your greater or greater Fanger attacks, put this unit into the soul, and then choose one of your Vanguard. They gain +5k until the end of turn. Keyword until the end of turn. So if you get the over trigger, um, it's gonna still retain the 5k, which is nice. which is one of the reasons on why some list of the Conic Overlord uses this, because it's just a genuinely nice card to have. And, yeah, it's just really nice cards. At least in for Eugene, in relative to the other decks, they have way more better support, and I can't even make that thing up. Make it up. It's just they have better support, and I'm running two with it. DBT02, it's the double rare. The skill is act on Rhaegar Circle. Um, if your opponent recovers it at this turn, you can counterblast one and choose one of the two effects. Either this unit gain plus 10k, or put this unit into the soul and then choose one of your opponent's great or greater rear guards and then retire it. This just either gives you soul and then pop something with a value with a great or greater, or just it's a plus 10k. In my opinion, this is like I sometimes no, I most of the time just keep this one of this in my hand, and then in my like two second to last final turn, I just call this thing counterblast twice plus 20k. Do that again in the next turn, and yeah, 20k boosters or 20k self attackers don't really need to boost with the thing. Yes, it's a 5k, but there's a reason on why it's a 5k. And yeah, it's just a really nice card, and I can't. Um, there's not much replacement for this. This is basically one of your, in my opinion, finishers. It's some kind of pathetic, but yeah, it's a finisher for this deck in my opinion, just because of the sheer amount of power that you can put. And Fushimashi Maruka, it's basically well, continuous on Rayguard and Guardian Circle. If your opponent's drop zone has 4 or more cards, this unit gains 2000 power and 5000 shield. Then, if it's 8 or more, this unit gains 5000 shield. So, they're gonna have a lot of cards in the drop zone, unless they're playing Zorga, and even then, they have a lot of cards in the drop zone, either way. Um, yeah, it's a 10,000 boost, 15k shield. It helps a lot, especially with this deck, because from my place, yes, you have a lot of cards in hand, but you don't have much shield at all. Playing this at a 1 is, in my opinion, just barely fits, because you want to run best harvest at 3. In my opinion, running Tribash at 3 is also like they need Tribash, and the other cards, like maybe you want to run to take out the buff Sarugra attack, the armed soldier card attack, and put another Fushimashi Madoka, in my opinion, but the shield tech is just slightly better in my opinion. So yeah, it's a 10k booster, 15k shield most of the time. It's not all of the time, it's just most of the time. It's very nice. And we're going to the list of triggers. So basically, OT, Dragon Empire, 3 front triggers. The front 20k shields. I have the 4 crit souls. I have 4 normal crit. And I have 4 heals. Okay, Dragon. So I'm going to start with the Dragon Empire over trigger. Self-explanatory. It's the best over trigger over the Dragon Empire. Having a Vanguard stand is very nice, powerful. It gives at least a +1, and if you're on a grade 3, it gives you a +2. And it has, yeah, just a standard Vanguard attack. It's basically Overload. So yeah, it's a very nice card. Um, I'm running 8 crits. I'm gonna start with the crits first. Because basically most decks now run 8 crits, because you can't run more than 8 crits because of the rulings, the relatively new rulings. Because bringing back, remembering Giara back then, most decks just, even my Hanamaru deck, they just run 12 crits. Because draw triggers, 10 triggers are almost Uh, well, they're not as good as having just crit triggers. Yeah. Unless you have monochrome or prankster, which is very powerful, and hell, even taro. They're just 3D powerful effects that that overthrows the critical trigger. That's why they run it. But if there's no really good effect, like, why bother running them and just run crits? That back then with Giera. Now it's like even more. Why would you run other than crit triggers? If I can run more than 8 crit triggers, I would run 11 crit triggers. That's how good crit triggers are in this game. It's, in my opinion, one of the infuriating things like in Vanguard. The fact that you gotta take into account this, which is which is, in my opinion, a lot of the times fucking bullshit. Because you sometimes you expect a crit trigger and it doesn't go out, and then sometimes don't expect a crit trigger and they got a double crit and then you just die. So yeah, and getting one crit, it's fine if you got if they got a drive check. If they get two crits, you're fucking dead. I'm sorry, man. What, like, you had 2 damage, now you're at 5, not counting if you don't count heals and over triggers, and most of the time that's really dumb. So yeah, um, like 8 crits, just like mandatory. This is the normal crit. There's no effects on them, and the crit soul, in my opinion, staple. It's just a instant 4 of in all decks. Yeah, just because of the soul, especially in this deck with at least with the second skill of Eugene. If you get this on the top of your deck, on the top five, if on the top searches, um, at least you have a choice to call them. Unlike the normal crit, when most of the time you're just gonna put them in the soul. This is gonna put into the soul naturally by their own skill, and which is very nice, in my opinion. The skill is auto on reversible. At the end of the unit that this unit boosted, at the end of the battle this unit boosted cost. Put this unit into the soul and then choose one of your units. That unit gains 2000 power. This also helps a lot with with Dustin, because if they have two or more, if they have two regards, you just slap this, give the 2000 power to Dustin, and you have an 18k attacker if you soul blast one, which is quite nice. And if you have two for some reason, you can choose give the two 2Ks, which mean a 4K to Jibrobakyo, making himself, if the opponent has one less regard, 19K, which is same as the 18K power, which is a 10K guard, which is very annoying. I might say. So yeah, that's the 8 crits. Running 4 heals. The 4 heals make you survive 15k shield. I don't know why they make 15k shield. That's one of the reasons on why I don't know why they make it 15k shields, but I'm not gonna ask them. It's not my decision. It's their decision, so I'm not gonna question anything. And I'm not running draws. I'm running 4 fronts. Running 4 fronts is quite it's nice. You get a lot of power. This deck needs power actually. Why, if you're running draw triggers, you're most likely gonna draw the draw triggers of this card, of the best harvest. Yes, I know the new draw triggers makes them a 10k, but here's the thing. Um, in my opinion, it's still better to just run best harvest because it's +1 for everything that you pop, basically making everything neutral. And most of the time that I use the second skill of Eugene, I get like one Dustin, one Gibra Brachio, or one Gibra Brachio, or at least one or two cards that can retire things with. And yeah, making that card, making best Star Wars, in my opinion, still one of the best cards because wow, you suddenly have a lot of cards in in your hand out of nowhere, and it makes your and they have to guess when you actually have the card how many of that card is in your deck in your hand. Like some decks, some I only know two people. I'm not gonna say their names that play it at a four of. And I say running it as a four of is nice, but it's still an order card doesn't have any shield value. And yeah, you need a lot of power, like I said, which is draw trigger only gives you um one 10,000 power. This gives you up to from 1,000 power to 3 10,000 power, which is 30k. And with this deck, like I say, you can hit 18, 19 in some of your numbers. So if you even check a single front, makes them 20, 29, they need to put 20, sometimes 25k, which is quite annoying because like I say, if you don't have this kind of front, it's quite annoying to put two cards. Yeah, and if they somehow if they take the damage, it's fine. If they guard it, like it's also fine. It's at least two cards gone, even with the PG, because PG you need to discard most of the time, keyword most of the time, because of the texting, the texting of the cards. Yeah, so it's a 20k shield. It gives you power. There's one of the reasons on why they give this the 20k shield, because nobody plays fronts. So in V. So yeah, that's my deck list. I hope you enjoy this. If you like this video, give it a subscribe, like, and yeah, give a comment below. If if you think this deck works, like in my opinion, from multiple testing that I did, um, this actually mostly works. Like yes, you can break. Yes, you can break the deck. Yes, you can get a lot of really shitty RNG, but even with really shitty RNG, if you're good enough to manage everything, you can, somehow get back up. It's gonna be a very rough time because you're playing Eugene, but yeah, you're gonna have it's still possible, especially in DBT03 makes the deck way better than previous one. In my opinion, actually somewhat playable if you want to do it in tournaments. But yeah, bye bye.